apparently you were saying that she needs to go out and do more, and she was saying you don't need to worry about my resolve. I was like, I don't remember that conversation, but though it sounds like a thing that I would say, and it sounds like a thing that Liz Cheney would say.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Next Level. I'm JVL here with my best friends, Sarah Longwell and Timothy Miller of the Bulwark. Before we get rolling, hit subscribe, give us 5 stars. Do the thumbs up if you're on the YouTube feed. The show is killing it, I'll be honest. Like, we're just awesome. And things are going super well. And but I want more, because more is more.
Hey, have you gone and read the comments on the have you, like, when people rate, they do the little comments
On the Apple podcast?
Yeah.
Not recently.
I have
Why,
recently.
Sarah? Did you?
Yeah, I know Tim has. And you know how I know Tim has? Because Tim likes to go look and see all the nice things people say about him. And I don't remember when he must have solicited people, because it is JVL, you would hate it. It is just like a long list of people talking about how much they like Tim, and occasionally saying that you and I are also okay, with an occasional person insulting one of us.
Yeah.
That's
right. Well, see, here's the thing, is that when you do a show like I do on Sundays, I don't know, Sarah, I don't know if you listen to that show as often as you read JVL's newsletter, but sometimes at the very top of it, I tape a little thing and I say, hey guys, go into the comment section and on your Apple Podcasts and review us on the Apple Podcast app and tell us who you like the best. And if it's me, I would love to see my name there. And it seems that works. So
Look,
something for
it's
you guys
totally
to consider.
fair. People like Tim better than me, but anybody who doesn't like Sarah as much as Tim is a monster. Because Sarah, like Tim, is a great human being.
I agree with this.
Let's go. Here's another great human being, Liz forking Cheney. Liz Cheney has a book out, and we now have based Liz Cheney with laser eyes, sitting on the skull of thrones, and diamond hands, all of the memes. And it's amazing. It's everything that we hoped it could have been. Tim, would you like to go
not quite
first?
everything that we hoped it could have been. I mean, she could have been Speaker of the House or something right now rather than in exile. But yeah, I mean, look, we only have one excerpt from the book. I'm excited to devour more. And I think that there are going to be a lot of solid anecdotes from Liz. I was most intrigued by her comment about wee little Kevin McCarthy going down to Mar-a-Lago to see Donald Trump, and how mad Liz was at him. And Liz was like, Sarah looking at us when we start making dick jokes on the podcast and like shaking her finger at him. And Kevin was like, well, I mean, poor little Donnie Trump was sad. He was sad. He needed somebody to cheer him up. And they asked me to come down and cheer him up. Like, these people are so stupid. And you can just sense Liz's contempt for them through the pages, which I appreciate. And I think that she also, and we all kind of knew this, but since she's on the inside, she really exposes how weak the Republican Congress people are, right? And just how pliable they are. And the fact that, like, there were so many of them that, like, said that they were going to do the right thing and then just folded like a cheap suit. And so I do enjoy that. Those are just some of my favorite things from the Liz Cheney book excerpts.
Here's one. He knows it's over, McCarthy said. He needs to go through all the stages of grief.
What stage are we in right now, would you say?
When the California Republican went
bargaining?
on Fox News the same day, he said, President Trump won this election, Cheney writes. It's amazing. McCarthy being very, very concerned that he went down to Mar-a-Lago. He was worried that Mr. President, Mr. Trump, wasn't eating.
You might be depressed.
Because Donald Trump seems like a guy who really misses meals when he is feeling bad.
The only person who was ever president and didn't look different by the end, which shows you
literally true.
How little that he carried the weight of the office. Anyway, Sarah, what did you have a fave?
I was going to say the thing JVL just said about him not eating, which I thought was funny. That was some nice color. I also, she retells the anecdote that I've always really liked about what's his face from Ohio.
Jim Jordan.
Yeah. Going, like we need to get the women out of the aisle, like being sort of like macho. And she's like starts swearing at him and being like, you did this. This is your effing fault. I love that. And I think that, look, Mitt Romney's got the book doing sort of a very similar thing here, which is it's just an exposure of the hypocrisy. And I think that what's interesting from almost like a tribal standpoint is the way that these guys feel the need to like kick these people out of the tribe as quickly as possible because they hold up the mirror and because they expose their truth. And so like, that's why they can't be there. Like they cannot be around somebody they know is right and correct and is saying it out loud.
You know who is not like that? My other favorite anecdote from this chapter, Nancy Pelosi. If you would have told me 10 years ago that in an old age Nancy Pelosi would be, you know, I would just have gained like a Nancy Pelosi appreciation, I would have. My husband would have is really doing I told you so's if he listened to this podcast, which he doesn't. So I can speak freely about how much I like Nancy Pelosi now. But I liked this. Cheney writes that Pelosi's team pulled together a list of the 10 worst things I had ever said about her. Okay, now this was when Nancy Pelosi decided that Liz should take kind of more of a public role in the January 6th hearings, that it makes more sense politically to have a Republican out front. Nancy Pelosi's, you know, the little progs that work for Nancy Pelosi were all nervous that they thought maybe it was a mistake to put somebody like Liz Cheney up front. Pelosi takes a look at the list, handed it back to the staffer, and asked, "Why are you wasting my time with things that don't matter?" It would only have been better if it ended with, "You little bitch." Thank you, Nancy Pelosi. You know, just under fire at the Capitol. Showing poise, a lot more poise than Chuck Schumer in that video, by the way, that was released, showing a lot of poise when under fire. And then when her team tries to get petty about bringing Liz Cheney on board, you know, Pelosi says no. I think that is, you know, it feels obvious to us at the Bulwark that Liz Cheney should have had a public face in the January 6th committee, but you could imagine a different type of Democratic leadership where that would have been true, or frankly, you could imagine this from my Kevin. It's hard to imagine that my Kevin would have put, you know,
because think of the pressure actually in the moment, because they are sure that Trump's done actually right after January, right? And so that, you know, and actually like they think maybe we can get him, and so like there's this, and if you remember back to the first impeachment, how much sort of like grandstanding it was and how it did kind of make stars out of some of the people who were running the impeachment, who were getting up and giving their speeches. And so to give it over to the Republicans, put them front and center, you can see how people who are close to her would get mad about that. They're like, no, we want to be the ones to make this case. And she understood both the optics and the politics of it. And also, I think probably like how much more viscerally Liz and Adam felt about this, and like how doggedly they were going to pursue it in ways that when it's just politics, you can let things fall away. Like my guess is that Liz Cheney was like probably like a monster taskmaster during these during the January 6th hearings, and good on her, right? Like, I'm sorry, this was a job for Republicans.
And just to really put a finer point on I think an important observation you made is the political context of the time, right? Like not everybody was like JVL, who realized that Donald Trump was going to rise from the grave. You know, many people thought that he was done, right? And another anecdote from the book drives this home, right? Mitch McConnell did not act like Nancy Pelosi did. Right?
I like where I am.
Yeah,
right. This is what Mitch says to her.
Yeah, I am. Where
I am on impeachment.
Yeah, he had initially said that he was going to impeach. And then he, you know, went with his middle ground thing where he says mean things about Donald Trump on the floor and then votes to, you know, keep his political career alive. But one of the rationalizations for that was what's the downside for humoring him rationalization, right? Like Mitch McConnell, in all of his savvy, thought he was done. Right. And so it wouldn't be hard to imagine that Nancy Pelosi might have thought that, too. Maybe she did at the time. Maybe she thought, oh, but this is still, you know, we still need to make the strongest case. It's still the right thing to do. And you can see how one of her staffers who lived in West Wing fantasy politics might have thought, oh, my goodness, we're elevating somebody that could be a threat. right? Like right now, this seems ridiculous, right? Like Liz Cheney was defeated in a primary, but at the time, like you're elevating somebody from the other conference who might be, who you might think of as more of a political threat than the MAGA wing, right? And you're giving her this huge platform, and to just not consider any of that, right? And just make sure the strongest case was being put forth. It was not as obvious as it seems right now. It was a meaningful choice by her, and it just shows in stark contrast to Mitch McConnell making the exact opposite disastrous choice, which is really the only reason why we're here right now is Mitch McConnell's disastrous choice.
I mean, I do think look, we've said this 100 times, but I feel like we should say it every single time we talk about her. The courage that Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger showed is so tremendous that the country really does owe a debt to them. And like there are a handful of progressives who get angry about that. They're like, well, she voted for Trump and she realized too late. And yeah, okay.
Agree.
Fine. But she realized, and when she realized, like, it isn't that she just gave a background quote to Politico. Like right. What she and Kinzinger did was absolutely stunningly courageous. And honestly, one of the reasons that I am so down and depressed at the prospect of Trump winning again, because I think it's, at least as likely to happen as not, is that if Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger's sacrifice on this was for nothing, then like, what the hell what is this country even doing? And that really bugs me.
We found a new name for the podcast. What is this country even doing?
So I don't know. I
agree, and it's a contrast to other people that did the right thing, like Anthony Gonzalez, right? Again, this is not a criticism really of Anthony Gonzalez. He voted to impeach. He decided that he had a young family and it wasn't worth the bullshit. And he went back to Ohio. Okay, it's better than a lot of other people acted, but there were two people that said no, like this, that we need to treat the accusations we are making against Donald Trump with the seriousness that the accusations merit. Right. And that's been the refreshing thing the whole time. Right. And this gets into, the kind of people that we'll talk about in segment 2. Right. This idea is that you can't say this guy's a fucking lunatic and then be like, well, maybe though. You know what I mean? Like her actions matched the words that so many people have used against Donald Trump. I carry no brief. Like, not done anything.
I've never exchanged even so much as an email with Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger. It's not like they're buddies of mine. I just think that what they did was phenomenally courageous and the best sort of thing that we expect from American patriots. And I'm grateful to them, and I think we all ought to be.
Adam and I are buddies, but I've only met Liz Cheney the one time, and I literally I'm probably speaking out of school, but whatever. He didn't tell me it was off the record. I had a book author message me the other day and says, hey, I'm working on a book. And I was referred to an exchange you had with Liz Cheney in Arizona. And I was like, oh, yeah, I did see Liz Cheney one time in Arizona. He's like, what happened? And he was like, apparently you were saying that she needs to go out and do more. And she was saying, you don't need to worry about my resolve. I was like, I don't remember that conversation, but though it sounds like a thing that I would say, and it sounds like a thing that Liz Cheney would say. So you can include it if you want. But I think the context was that I was just speaking to what you were saying about the actions, right? Matching this is like it was at the time when she was, I think speaking out, but we were coming up in the midterms, and I was like, look, there are all these Secretary of State races out there. You should, endorse the non-deniers. And again, just as in the Pelosi situation we were talking about, she did it, and at the time that didn't seem as clear. There were people telling her she maybe shouldn't do that. She had her own, and every time since the moment that she stood up, she's answered the bell.
Sarah, do you want to?
No, I agree with that. Here's the thing. I guess I'm trying to decide whether I want to introduce this whole deviation on this subject, but like,
you hate Liz Cheney and you're here to savage her, right?
No, no. It actually is to this question about how does Liz sort of best leverage her voice in this moment, and obviously writing this book is good. And I can often be critical of some of the like ex folks who write books, but I think one of the things that's different about what Liz is doing. And Adam has a book too, and Mitt Romney, right, is they are telling the inside story. And yet, I still don't think those are the best ways to deploy. Like, it's good, right? It's good for her to get these anecdotes out. It exposes them all to the good. Just the question is like, what does Liz Cheney do next? How does she try to defeat Donald Trump? And I think one of the things that's really complicated about this moment is Tim was talking about the progressives who still kind of hold it against her, like Don Winslow or somebody who just like relentlessly is pumping out stuff being like, here's what she said about abortion and here's what she said about this. And what's disappointing or I don't kind of know what to do with is what is the role for Liz Cheney next? Like if she were to go to Biden and say, I want to endorse you. I want to get out on the trail with you. Does that help Biden? Maybe in some districts.
Yes.
Maybe in some places.
It hurts him in California and helps him in Pennsylvania, right?
Are you worried it hurts him in what with in Rashida Tlaib's district in Michigan or something, or in Ann Arbor?
No, with progressives who like I just considering that they think that she's a warmonger. I actually think that our narrow view on this is quite narrow, and I could see how somebody like Liz, right? I think this is where the third party fantasies sort of come together, is this idea of like, but Liz Cheney could be a third, she could be, what about Liz Cheney? I would vote for Liz Cheney. People in our world say things like that. And it's easy to convince yourself that there is a sort of
I know what to do. I know what to do.
What? Oh, she becomes a Democrat?
Kamala Harris steps down from the ticket.
Yeah.
Replaced by Liz Cheney explicitly as a Republican, and it becomes
unity ticket.
A national unity ticket to face the threat of Donald Trump. So this is my point, though. This is
like,
Aaron
is that Tim?
Aaron
just
Sorkin
rule on
working
this.
with me here. Why?
Bill just appeared onto the podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Why is it great? Look, Mitt Romney. John McCain wanted to do this, right? John McCain in 2008 was dying to run with Joe Lieberman as his running mate, and he didn't. And we all know how that worked out. But I don't know. Joe Biden is losing this election right now, and I'm sorry, but it's simply facts. And something has to change. And
you're serious? I thought this was a joke. You're joking. You were serious with that suggestion?
I'm telling you, he gets like this.
Okay. No.
Look,
every
whatever. Once in a while.
Okay. Joe Biden. All right.
Every once in a while.
Joe Biden is 81.
Work with me here for 5
Joe
seconds.
Biden is 81. Okay. No, I can't work with you for 5 seconds. Joe Biden is 81. He cannot name a Republican as his vice president. It would be an absolute, just
National
total
governments do
apoplectic
this all the
response.
time in times of crisis, right? Parliamentary governments have formed unity governments in times of crisis.
You're one Joe Biden slip from Liz Cheney being from Dick Cheney's daughter becoming the president of the United States. JBL,
is that bad?
Please stop.
Is that bad?
I'm sorry.
I'm just like, we are going to have to endure so much of
quit
this,
the
is my
Bulwark and
point.
go back
This
into
the
working
point I
for
was
super
making.
PACs? There is one. Yes, Liz Cheney can help. She should endorse them, and I bet she will in the end after there's a period of all this kind of nonsense. And yes, she can go to Atlanta, and they can run ads in Atlanta, and they can run ads in the Philly suburbs, and yeah, it matters.
Attorney General.
And there are plenty of reasons why college kids might not turn out for Joe Biden. And we saw the very scary polls about what they think about inflation, and we watch TikTok. I do, at least, so we know that they have very pro Osama bin Laden views about Israel. So like, there are many reasons to be concerned about young people not turning out for Joe Biden. Liz Cheney endorsing Joe Biden with no promise of any role in the next administration and running ads in Atlanta is only a net plus, and it isn't even worth. And it isn't even worth like hand-wringing over. It's an obvious net plus. So she should do that.
There we go.
And he should.
And why not as VP?
Maybe. Hey,
all right.
Hey, kids in Ann Arbor, you never know. What's third in line? Secretary of State. Straightforward from here. Keep Kamala on the ticket. Get the young people out to vote.
I'm just saying there's going to be a ton of Liz Cheney for president, third party, establishment media chatter for the next.
That's absurd.
But if Liz tamps that all down,
mark my
doesn't
words.
that...
There's a lot of dumb stuff in the establishment media. This is why people come here. The real
Cheney
truth.
says, no, that's ridiculous, doesn't that actually even help tamp down some of the no labels mansion stuff too, right? If she says running as a third party would be helping Donald Trump, as people are asking her to run third party, isn't that also helpful?
If she does that, that would be awesome.
And she's on a book tour next week, so I'm sure someone's going to ask her
She's going to get asked every single time. And here's the thing, JVL. I don't know, but like...
Give her a little patience?
What?
Give her some patience on her answers?
Oh, no, I think we'll see. I think it's hard. Anytime somebody gets asked the question, are you thinking about running for president? For them to be like, nope, and stop asking me. I think people kind of like to leave the door open.
Pretty easy for me. Nope. I'm not going to run for president.
No one's going to ask you to run for president.
The commenters on the next
people
level
in the iTunes reviews are all saying that Tim should be president.
Several people in the iTunes reviews want me to run for president, and I appreciate your support, but I will not be running. Thank you.
Tim, do you have a special message for the people?
I do. I have a really special message because we all live busy lives these days, and we can't afford to waste a day stuck on the couch because we had a few drinks the night before. Zbiotics pre-alcohol is the answer we've all been looking for. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. JVL, maybe if you'd been a PhD scientist, you could have come up with this. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Zbiotics pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, not your last. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. I got to tell you, I don't know if you know this about me. I have some buddies like to enjoy a good night on the town. So before Zbiotics came to us for a sponsorship, I'd already received some in the mail. Some got sent to me by some friends of mine, like to go out to concerts, like to have a good time. And they said, hey, Tim, I know you like to produce a lot of content. I know you got to wake up in the morning and do podcasts, give the people what they want. In case you're going to a concert the night before, try one of these Zbiotics before you go out and you'll enjoy it. Highly recommend. It does as advertised. Before December 14th, this holiday season, give your friends and family a gift they will actually want and use with Zbiotics. Go to zbiotics.com/nextlevel to get 15% off your first order when you use Next Level at checkout. Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/nextlevel and use the code NEXTLEVEL at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, Zbiotics, for sponsoring this episode and for the good time that will be had by all.
So we have Liz Cheney behaving like a grown-up and a patriot, and then we have Chris Sununu.
Is he not acting like a patriot and a grown-up?
So Chris Sununu, who once upon a time said that Donald Trump would absolutely not be the nominee, who then said that he had a clear path to the Republican nomination, he being himself, Chris Sununu, but that was choosing not to because he thought he could have even more influence as the sitting governor and not being in the campaign, has now reconciled himself to Donald Trump probably being the nominee and said, look, am I gonna support him? Well, I am a Republican, so, of course. And I guess that just means that whoever's wearing the jersey, you have to vote for them no matter what. Jeffrey Dahmer is the Republican nominee. I'm sorry, dude. I'm a Republican. What do you want me to do? I don't have any free will. This is, this is all predestined. This fucking guy.
Sarah? Guy.
So he was not St. Larry levels with you, but you liked Chris Sununu once upon a time.
Yeah, look, I like all the moderate Republicans. These were my people. And some of them, in fact, most of them have disappointed me at depths I can't even articulate. But let me just tell you why the Sununu stuff is so bad. And I think I've made this point before, but it is one thing for Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, and then a bunch of Steve Daines, who nobody knows who that is, and all these people to rush out and endorse Donald Trump. Mike Johnson, who also worked with him to overturn the election. Okay. We expect that. The permission structures that get built by somebody like a Chris Sununu signals to normies their favorite way of rationalizing Donald Trump, which is, well, Democrats are worse. I couldn't possibly vote for Joe Biden because I'm aware of all of Donald Trump's flaws. And Joe Biden's worse. But what's crazy about this is that it's like just after Sununu says, yes, of course, Trump versus Biden, I go with Trump. Trump tweets like the most insane thing about how he would utilize the government to shut down MSNBC and like a insane attack on free speech, American values. I mean, this is a guy who said he wanted to dismantle the Constitution.
Terminate
the Constitution. Obviously did a coup. I mean, so Chris Sununu is in a category of like, so if you take Larry Hogan is saying he is doing, I think, harm with the third party stuff because he's equating sort of an equivalency. And I think that's bad. It is even worse, though, what Chris Sununu is doing, which is to not say they are equivalent, but that Trump is preferable. Based on what? Because this is where, to me, things become so clear. Because it's just like the policy, what is it that Chris Sununu, okay, so we don't share many of Joe Biden's policy views. We certainly don't share the policy views of some of the progressive base of the Democratic Party. And yet, the idea that Donald Trump would be preferable to Joe Biden is like the most insane thing. And so anyway,
Sarah,
Chris Sununu, I want to swear at you, but I won't because I'm the nice one on this podcast.
It's even more insane than you're saying because this loyalty is unidirectional.
Yeah.
Look, I could understand it if Chris Sununu was like, well, I got to do this because I'm going to be the presidential nominee in 2028, or, well, you know, because I got to... The Republican Party hates Chris Sununu, right? The Donald Trump hates Chris Sununu. The Republican voters are never going to let him anywhere near power ever again because they hate him because he's not loyal to Donald Trump. And yet Chris Sununu thinks that he's got to like stick. I don't understand it. And this is one of the real differences between Liz Cheney and the Chris Sununus of the world, of which there are many and very few Liz Cheneys. Is that Liz Cheney was able to see the world clearly. She was able to perceive reality clearly. And Chris Sununu just lives in this fantasy land.
Yeah, I've got a message for Chris Sununu because he is in a fantasy land, and I don't think that he... I genuinely think that Chris Sununu is misguided and believes, because you didn't say at the top, we should say, I think we're on the cusp of Chris Sununu endorsing, I assume, Nikki Haley. He hasn't said, but
Great.
You know,
Good
he indicated that he's going to endorse someone and they're going to campaign really hard in New Hampshire. And I think that Chris Sununu, he's probably fooling himself, but he's fooled himself into thinking that by keeping his street cred as a Republican, he can endorse Nikki and make a difference to help her, and that's the thing that he can do that best helps stop Donald Trump. And I'm here to look Chris Sununu in the eye and say, wrong. What you are actually doing right now is helping Donald Trump more than Vivek, more than Lauren Boebert, more than Marjorie Taylor Greene. What Chris Sununu is doing right now is the thing that Donald Trump could most use, which is get air cover from people that feel normal to help create, as Sarah said, that permission structure to get Wall Street Journal reading Republicans comfortable with voting for Donald Trump again over Joe Biden, to get the same people we were talking about in the last segment, the Atlanta suburbs dads, the Buckhead dads, you know, who voted for Mitt Romney, like in the way that Liz Cheney can influence them to vote for Joe Biden, Chris Sununu can speak to them. Now, these are not that many. They're not that many of these people. They are on the margins, and the margins matter, and the margins matter in these key states. And what Chris Sununu is doing by calling Donald Trump a fucking insane person, by endorsing Nikki Haley, and then by turning around and saying, well, I tried my best, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump now. That is the thing that he could do if he was trying to help Donald Trump win. That is the best thing that he could do to help him. Honestly, because if he had just endorsed Trump, then he'd be nobody. Then nobody talk about it. He just endorsed Trump. He'd just be another one of these schmoes who's come along for Donald Trump. But if he wants to help influence the swing voters to vote for Donald Trump, then he's doing the thing that would be the most helpful to him. So I genuinely think that he has convinced himself that he is helping his own career, but also, in his own little way, stop Trump. He is not. He's helping Donald Trump. If you know Chris Sununu, please send this to him and let him know. Maybe he won't care, actually. Maybe he wants Donald Trump to win. I don't fucking know Chris Sununu from Adam, so maybe he won't care. But at least he could work from the accurate information. And I think that there are a lot of people in his ear telling him that this is the best thing you can do. You save your influence. You keep your influence this way. You stay in the mix, and you can help nudge the party. All of his consultants are telling him that. And those consultants are fucking selfish and they're wrong. And people should be in his ear telling him that no, actually what he's doing is helping Donald Trump.
If Chris Sununu can take Nikki Haley from a 1 in 10,000 shot to a 1 in 1,000 shot, then that is helpful, so long as he is not also increasing Trump's odds of beating Biden by 1%.
Even
this is the problem.
Even 0.1%. Even moving it from 49.8 to 49.9 is much more significant.
Your help for Haley can't come at the expense then of helping to normalize and then help elect Trump in the general. That's what these guys don't seem to understand.
Yeah, which is one of the big, I think that there is going to be a moment that is going to be sort of deja vu-ish, but also deeply heartbreaking. I can see this happening for me, where Nikki Haley makes a decent run, better than we probably thought out of the gate, right? She becomes DeSantis just sucking so hard. She's getting in the 30s, and we get a little hopeful. Sometimes every now and then I squint and I can see it and I get a little hopeful before I tell myself the truth again. Then there's going to be this moment where Nikki Haley endorses Donald Trump after he's the nominee. Oh, yeah. And where Chris Sununu does it. Chris Christie won't. He won't. But a bunch of people will. And it's going to be, they're going to give that permission structure again. And they're going to do it this time. This is the thing. I just think people forget that when you say, well, Adam Kinzinger voted for Trump in 2020 or Liz Cheney voted for Trump in 2020. Those are bad. I think we had a lot of information at that point to say that Trump was utterly disqualified from being president again, but he hadn't done the coup yet. He hadn't refused to leave office. And so the extent to which you could rationalize that, to me, is the most deep and pathetic, and that's what they're all going to do.
Yeah, it is what they're all going to do. My rage, I've been trying not to write about this because I want my rage to bubble and curdle all the way up to the moment it actually happens, so I can really fully spill it out onto my Google document when it actually happens, rather than pre-raging. But it is going to happen. I'm going to be very upset with all those people. I'm going to give you a stern finger wag. One other thing, we had a little Bulwark debate this morning about the Haley momentum. And you can squint and see her coming back, and I feel like I need to do the wind up every time, which is and I hope she comes back, and I hope I'm wrong, and I don't really like Nikki Haley because she is going to endorse Donald Trump, and I would vote for Joe Biden over Nikki Haley, but she'd be a million times better than Donald Trump, and so it would be great if I'm wrong about this. But the thing is that what you just said, Sarah, about then I come back to reality, is that's all fine and well and good to do and say, and it's fine to want to support her, and if the Kochs want to spend millions of their largesse to help her, good on them. I haven't actually seen it yet, and they've spent some, but they put out a big memo. I think it probably would have been helpful to just spend the money and not put out the memo, but okay, that's a nitpick. If they want to spend,
they can do some ads about how smart she is on immigration and how businesses need more immigration.
This is where I'm going. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that I really that still for some reason has not sunk in with people, and I'm just going to keep saying it, and maybe it'll sink in eventually. The Republican Party voters have looked at the policy agenda that the Koch network has offered, and they have rejected it with utter derision. They haven't just kind of rejected it. They haven't just said, oh, it's not our cup of tea. They have said, I spit on you. You are disgusting. The old school globalist open borders, corporate tax cuts, Republicans are like worse than everybody except for like Rashida Tlaib, right? For the Republican base. They are vermin, all right? And so that's just where we're at. Like, are there still some Republicans out there? Sure. Is there still a quarter of the party or 25% or what, 20%, 30? I don't know. Yeah, sure. There's still some people, my dad's still out there. He's still reading the Wall Street Journal. Like these people still exist. But like the party has looked at the Kochs for cycle after cycle after cycle and rejected them. There are people that were attracted to that message that have left the party. There are people that used to be attracted to that message that have changed their mind because Donald Trump has polluted their mind, and they've joined a cult. And so the numbers of people that agree with that have gone down within the party on both sides. Okay. And they don't matter. So if the Kochs, though, want to try to do something different and run a bunch of ads that's like Donald Trump's a loser, Donald Trump's an idiot, like Donald Trump, Nikki Haley would beat Joe Biden by 10 points, and I don't know. They can test all the messages they want. If they want to try this, that's fine. But like announcing that big rich people that are immigration doves are supporting your candidacy is actually a net loss for your candidacy. It actually hurts her. So maybe they'll do it. I hope that they do the right thing. Maybe it'll make a difference on the margins. But but I think that there's just a lot. You have to realize what is actually happening among Republican Party voters.
Are they going to spend money to help Biden in the general?
No.
If Trump is the nominee?
No, of course not.
Why not?
Because again, this is why. Again, I don't.
You're right.
I know that there. I'm going to get in trouble because I know there are people involved in this that have their hearts in the right place, and so running ads against Trump isn't that good. But why are they not going to do it? Because my assessment is that this is a face save. Like, that's why you put out the memo. That's why if people know. It's like, hey, we're signaling. We do not. I'm sure Charles and whatever. We do not like Donald Trump, and so we're going to tell people we're going to run ads against him. That's better than not doing it. Doing it 10 months ago would have been better than doing it now. But it's not a, this is not a genuine effort to do everything possible to stop Trump. That's not what this is.
So I'm going to take the counter position on this. So number one, 10 months ago, I think they were spending money, maybe not 10 months ago, but like 5 or 6 months ago, they were spending money. That was kind of the way a bunch of us who were trying to figure out how do you find any cracks in this primary, right? How do you make an argument? And you have sort of an anybody but Trump with that big field. You're like, okay, anybody but Trump. So how do we create space to sort of open this up? And I don't think that's a crazy thing for them to do. What they're doing right now that to me is different and that I don't think they could have done any earlier is they're backing someone. And here's the thing. Okay, so, and I agree with you on the voters. That's sort of like a separate thing. But let's just take for a second a consolidation of the donor class. Like, it's not like just Charles Koch is going to spend money. There is like a massive network behind him that he's going to move. It's going to create a permission structure for the Ken Griffins of the world and a bunch of other people who were DeSantis people. And so like to the extent that the undercard race has always been about Donald Trump's eventually going to get a one-on-one contest. And who is that going to be? Right? For me, Nikki Haley being the alternative is so much better than it being Ron DeSantis. And I also think that we should acknowledge like that the Kochs are sublimating some of the things that do matter to them. Like talk about doves. They're foreign policy doves, right? They don't support Nikki Haley's view of foreign policy, but they have decided they could back DeSantis. But I think they don't think DeSantis is good, and they think his attacks on free speech and his effort to use the government in ways and his additional anti-democratic behavior, like them getting behind Nikki and moving the whole donor class there. Now, it could be fantasy politics, but like, isn't this what we ask people to do? Isn't this what we desperately want out of some members of the Republican Party? To me, I don't want to criticize them for doing what I think is like objectively the right thing. I may agree with you down the road that like the fact that people who believe that Trump is this existential threat to democracy are willing to break protocol and go this hard in a primary, but then not do something in a general, like that will frustrate me as well to no end. But like, this is, to me, unequivocally good and the right thing. And hold on, just one last thing. This idea that like it hurts Nikki, that's like maybe, but it's sort of like the argument you gave to me about Liz Cheney with Joe Biden. It's like, well, she's got to consolidate from somewhere. And she's sort of got to start with those move on from Trumpers and like the old school Republicans. And the Kochs they've got like a door knocking apparatus. They've got a huge ground game. They do have like a data. So I don't know. I just don't think it's nothing. I agree with you that at the end of the day, part of the problem is that this establishment, the old establishment donor class, doesn't understand what's happened to voters. They just do not comprehend what's happened to the party. But that to me doesn't negate the fact that like this is an unequivocal good and they're doing the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, again, I guess I do agree with the part that I would rather them spend the money to help Nikki Haley than not. I do agree with that. So I guess that's a net good. I guess you put it that way. My point is that my critique is of the meta variety of the analysis of this, which like continues to miss. You mentioned you bring Ken Griffin on. Like there's an entire cottage industry of reporters that are like do Ken Griffin whisperers, and Ken Griffin likes the attention. And there's a Politico article, and it's like Ken might move from Ron DeSantis to Nikki Haley, or Ken might sit it out, or Ken might. It's like it doesn't fucking matter what Ken does. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Jeb, we spent $100 million. Like DeSantis had $200 million. Like what? $100 million is going to help Nikki? How much are these people going to spend? Are they going to spend $2 billion? Okay, well, let's spend $2 billion. Okay, maybe that'll do a difference. The voters do not like these people, and their ads do not matter because Donald Trump is leading a cult, and they've spent 8 years sitting on their hands while the people got deeper and deeper into this cult and were fed propaganda, right? And so so again, is it good? Yeah. Does it on balance, like on a tiny little sliver? Sure. Does it matter? No, because these people
like
they don't
the cash for the general.
Yeah, or where it could matter. That's where it could matter. That's like that is my point. And so it's fine, do it. But I just like this. Oh, we need to write an article. It feels so 2011 to me. That's like, oh, we need to have a Politico article and it's on Drudge and we're going to have cable segments about what Ken Griffin or Charles Koch are going to do. The Republican Party hates these people. They hate them. So like, do it or don't do it. Do whatever you feel is right in your conscience. And I hope that you spend the money in the general too. And I think it's going to be fine for them to do it. But I just like acting like it's a big deal, I think is wrong. That's my take.
All right. This episode is sponsored by HelloFresh. In case you missed it, HelloFresh is so much more than delicious dinners. HelloFresh can help take the hassle out of every mealtime occasion with easy breakfasts, quick lunches, and snacks, all delivered along with your weekly box. Everyone wants to cut back on errands and spending time in checkout lines this time of year. So skip that extra grocery store trip and instead get fresh ingredients and delicious recipes delivered with HelloFresh. Just pick your meals, decide on a delivery date, and sit back. We actually did one of our HelloFresh meals like 2 days ago. Like the ingredients are they're very nice stuff, and they are quite fresh. It was good. I'm sorry,
and
it was
it
just
fed
good
all
food.
9 of your children? One delivery order?
All 11 of them.
All
Yes.
11 children. Wow.
Yes.
One delivery order. How did you ration?
They were enormous boxes. Multiple
It's a lot
boxes.
of food.
It is a
they're
very
healthy
large.
portions.
When you're ordering for family, because they ask you like how many people, and we were like 6 people, and we got 2 ginormous boxes. And anyway, it's very good.
What about the bear?
I don't like cooking.
Did you have to protect it from the bear? I know there are a lot of bears running through New York City, and you have that one bear that you see in your backyard sometimes.
We do have a bear in our right by Central Park. And,
It's Escape from the Zoo.
Yeah, so we did a tortellini salad, which was delicious, and taquitos. I don't know. I don't even like cooking, and I thought that this whole thing was great. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add.
We did the taquitos. They were really good.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of them.
Good. Go to hellofresh.com/thenextlevelfree and use the code thenextlevelfree for free breakfast for life one breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/thenextlevelfree with code thenextlevelfree.
I didn't even know we had that great deal. This is news to me. I didn't read the ad script closely enough. That is exciting.
It's a really good deal. Mark Cuban made a little bit of news this week. He sold off part of his stake in the Mavs.
The majority stake.
The majority stake. Did he sell off all of it? Because he still is making. He's still in charge of the team, I think.
Yeah, he cut a deal with Miriam Adelson. You might know her.
Sheldon's widow.
Sheldon's widow. And the Las Vegas Sands cut a deal with them. And Miriam and the Adelson family is now the majority owner of the Dallas Mavericks basketball squadron. As part of the deal, Mark Cuban is still in charge of day-to-day operations, or he cut some deal that allowed him to still have control over the basketball programming.
And what else? He did something else.
He also left the
Shark Tank.
Out
and he left
last season. So he's out of Shark Tank, and he sold the Mavericks. That's interesting, isn't it?
Obviously, everybody immediately jumps to. So he's running as a third party, right? This is the thing. Do you guys have thoughts on that?
I mean, my thoughts
Sarah,
are like,
you look like you want to gouge your eyes out.
the amount of third-party chatter we are going to have to endure for such a long time. This was my point before about Liz Cheney. It's just like, we're about to be in a Liz Cheney third-party news cycle because she's got a book, and like everyone's going to ask her. And then we're going to simultaneously, I guess, being in a Mark Cuban third-party news cycle. Along with No Labels whenever they do like their weird convention, along with Cornel West and RFK and
Jill Stein,
that lady who always runs on the Green Party ticket. And it's just the worst. All of it. Somebody talk me down on the Mark Cuban thing that he's going to do this. Because I think I got some text last night and I was an unequivocal no. And I have my reasons for that I might not share. But let's just say I have gone down this third party route before aggressively and talked to many of the names that get floated around in a lot of these cases. And
like such as Shark Poobon?
Huh?
Such as Shark Poobon?
I don't even, I get your joke now, but all I'm saying is like I was told no by a great many people at the time who have showed renewed interest this time. And I don't understand why, since nobody would take on Trump in a Republican primary when it was really necessary back in 2020.
I can talk us down a little bit from it. Me and Bill talked about this briefly last night on YouTube. If people check out me and Bill's Tuesday Night Lives on YouTube, I just wait till after he's had a few glasses of wine and kind of get him lubed up, and he starts talking about all of his fantasies. Alcohol, Sarah, don't give that face.
Do you strap it on too?
Face.
JVL, come on. Oh, that is great. That is yucky. This is Bill Kristol is the eminence. How do you say that word? Eminence Grease?
Eminence Grease.
Eminence Grease. He's
I think he's
person that
I don't think
respect.
the S is
Eminence Grease.
Yeah.
Eminence Grease. So anyway, after that, I sent a text just to one of my friends that is, let's just say, very well acquainted with the mindset of NBA basketball owners and assorted rich people. He's one of the rich people, hangers-on. He's not going to like to be called a hangers-on, but you know what I mean. One of the people that that works for the very wealthy that help
your
keep
friend
this
is not the reigning NBA Finals MVP.
He's not. It's not Nikola Jokic. It's not an actual basketball player.
Sorry.
But he understands the mindset of the uber rich better than I do. Obviously, based on my rant in the last segment. And his take was that there is some like complicated basketball reasons for why he might be doing this, and that the Mavericks are interested in creating like a casino outside the stadium, and by partnering with Las Vegas Sands, and there are certain rules in the NBA, and now Cuban can be the majority shareholder of that, and there'll be like there'll be a new complex in Dallas that's like casino and resort, and it'll be the Las Vegas of the planes. What do you call Dallas? Was Dallas on a plane? Whatever. And that is the real reason. It's like is rich guy wanting to get richer, not rich guy wanting to run for president. So that could be. That very well could be. Though I do feel like while I might not know uber wealthy basketball owners and their motivations that well, I do kind of know the motivations of super narcissists pretty well. And man, I do think it's got a lot of these guys are looking in the mirror when they're shaving in the morning right now. And they turned off Morning Joe. And on Morning Joe, they're having their 19th straight segment about how the polls look bad for Joe Biden and nobody likes Joe Biden and nobody likes Donald Trump and nobody wants either of these guys to run. And they look in the mirror and they say, why not me?
Why not me? Why not me?
And I do worry about that a little bit in the Cuban instance, that it might very well just be this mundane casino rationale. But I worry a little bit that there might be a why not me happening.
Because this is what happens. Like, this is my point about all of them, even ones that aren't super narcissists, even ones that would do it for the right reason, is that there is something deeply intoxicating about a bunch of people coming up to you to be like, you should really be president. Mm-hmm. And like, you get a bunch of like fake consultants to tell you your path and how it could work. And they show you the stupid no label stuff of like, see, 60% of Americans want an alternative in which they are inserting their fantasy candidate, which incidentally is not you, person I'm talking to, but...
Or maybe it is you for 8% of them, but for another 8% it's The Rock, and for another 8% it's Bernie Sanders, and for another 8% it's Jerry Falwell Jr. It's not a coherent group of 60.
Yeah, and this is where good old establishment basic me gets really, really annoyed with the establishment of the whispers between the donor class, this like famous person who maybe could be president class and or ex-politician or whatever class, along with, who did I say first? The money class, the famous people class, and then the media. The media who then is like, I'm so bored with Joe Biden versus Trump that I am going to spend lots of ink talking about musing about these third party candidates. I'm going to get endless calls about these. And my answer, just hear me now, is no to all of them. It's not the triangle of doom. It's just no to all of them.
It's a new triangle.
It's a hectagon.
It's the triangle of vanity.
Yeah.
The triangle of vanity. Go trademark that right now, Sarah. That's yours.
The answer is no to all of them. Yeah, and I will say, for people that didn't watch the Bulwark live in D.C., that's up on YouTube right now. I did a water bottle gimmick, and Mark Cuban seems like, again, I don't know, I haven't looked at a list of his policy prescriptions. He seems like there's a lot of things. He seems like he hasn't thought about that deeply, but just directionally speaking, Mark Cuban kind of seems like a centrist neoliberal. And if we were in a race between Mike Johnson and Ilhan Omar, like I'd probably be gung ho about Mark Cuban's candidacy, but like that's just not where we're at. And unfortunately, Mark Cuban, as evidenced by the fact that he voted for Joe Biden and holds Joe Biden's positions on all the major cultural issues, is part of the Joe Biden coalition. And this was like, Sarah gets those calls. I got a couple calls from rich people last time, and my first question to them was always, okay, tell me a cultural issue that you agree with Donald Trump on. Silence. Right? And it's like, all right, well then you're part of the Joe Biden coalition. Call me back when if you found a rich person that wants to run that can take Donald Trump voters because they think that we should have alligator moats on the border, or think that wokeism is the greatest problem facing our society, or whatever.
Or don't like peaceful transitions of power.
Yeah. I have another. Do you have anything on Cuban? Because I have one more rant about capitalism, really fast, if you don't mind.
One more. We're running very, very long.
Oh no, we're fine.
You can have your rant, but
this is up your alley. This is a rant about capitalism. Are you ready for this?
Oh, I'm here for that.
Nothing turns me into Bernie Sanders more than talking about sports team owners. Okay. Do you know how much Mark Cuban made on the Dallas Mavericks? You want to guess?
I know this.
Billies.
He paid $230 million, I think.
Yeah.
And he's sold his stake for $2 billion?
3.5.
3.5 billion.
So the valuation now, I don't know if he actually made $3 billion. I think Mark Cuban was the kind of guy that was probably running operational losses. I'm sure he's writing that off in his taxes, but It's in the billions. I can't imagine he took more than $1 billion in operational losses. So just let's be nice to Mark Cuban and say he made $2 billion. 20 years. It's been 2 decades. He's on the team. 20 years. He made $2 billion. Like, that should be garnished and given back to the people of Dallas, or at least a percentage of that. Like, sports teams are not capitalism. Okay, sports teams are not capitalism. In a free market, in actual capital, sports teams are a cartel. There are 30 teams. The head of the league gets to decide who owns them. There are lots of people that want to own them. Anytime a new team comes up, there are many people.
The owners get to decide who owns them. It's even worse than the head of the league.
Yeah, the other owners get to decide. Okay. Yeah. If you were a rich guy in Dallas that made a lot of money inventing a widget or striking oil underneath the ground, and you decided, I don't think Mark Cuban's doing a very good job with his team. The Dallas Mavericks have not won the championship in 10 years now. You can't start a new NBA team in Dallas. You can't start like the Dallas Oilmen and compete against Mark Cuban and join the NBA. It's not like, you're running a laundromat and you're doing a shitty job, like your people's buttons are falling off their shirts, so you can start a competing laundromat across the street. That's how a free market works. This is not a free market. It is a cartel, and it is managed by the league, and they get tax write-offs for it, and it's a prestige business that you only get into if members of the club let you in. And to make $3 billion off of that, is turning me red commie. It's turning me red commie. And in Denver, this rant is especially true because in Denver we have owners who won't cut a deal with the local TV station, so people can't watch the games on TV. And it's like you are given this this is like being bestowed. Being able to be a team owner, you're being bestowed with something. You have an obligation and a responsibility to the community. If you made $3 billion back, then I'm sure that you should get to keep some of it. Mark Cuban added some investments. He should be able to write all that off.
He did find Dirk Nowitzki.
What?
He did find Dirk Nowitzki.
He did a lot of great stuff. But like, that is a crazy amount of money to make for doing nothing. He really didn't. He could have done nothing and made most of that money, right? Like, it's not, he didn't invent anything. He didn't create anything. He just got about 29 other rich guys just picked him to be the lucky number 30.
Sarah, do you have a rebuttal?
So my business understanding of sports is right up there with my regular understanding. Not of sports rules, because obviously I played sports, but
no rules.
Professional
like
sports,
players. Like if I started listing players from the 1980s,
so I didn't actually know what you just told me. That was new information to me that Tim just gave about the cartel elements.
Really?
So you're just taking it.
There's a famous Supreme Court case about this dating back to Major League Baseball, in which there was an antitrust lawsuit against Major League Baseball because it is a cartel. It's a monopoly. And Congress carved out an antitrust exemption for baseball. And so essentially it is a recognition that professional sports leagues are cartels, but they are exempt from antitrust law.
On what grounds?
In ways that on legislative grounds. Like literally just because we consider them the Congress considers it a category difference. Congress just says everybody likes their baseball. So you can't decide to set up, literally say, I'm going to set up the New York Zephyrs as a competing baseball team with the Yankees and the Mets. You can't do that. And that normally would be antitrust behavior, but we're going to say that it's okay for Major League Baseball to do that. And this is how this is the law that governs all of professional sports in America.
Anyway, congratulations to the Cuban progeny, the kids and grandkids who all get to dine out on this generational wealth forever, even though their dad did nothing, really, except own the sports team and get to sit courtside and have a great time, and then build some new facilities. That's nice. It's all great. It's all good. I mean, that's all good. I think maybe some of that money should go back into the community. I don't know. Build some housing or something. That's just me. Maybe I'm a communist.
Good show. Very long show. Sarah, Tim.
To be fair, he is going to pay taxes on it, right? Like he's going to pay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, Jan.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. Well, luckily the good news is if Mark Cuban runs for president, I will get to see his tax returns.
Oh no,
and the democracy
no, that's not a thing anymore.
Democracy might come to an end.
Yeah, that's
when
right.
Donald Trump.
They don't have to give us their tax returns anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, wait.
My guess is there were a lot of losses that they got to write off. But yeah, sure, I'm sure he paid some taxes on it.
Okay, so before we go, we have this super fan named Holly.
Holly,
did you guys see Holly's latest? So she does these like parodies of us.
She's got you down.
She has me down the best. Yeah. Like she ends up like with Tim, she had to go like full costume. And so like she's capturing Tim's like essence, but with me, she's doing a literal impression. Right down to my favorite part was that she was drinking the whole time. Not alcohol, but like I am also in need of constant fluids. And so she was like drinking. Her vest, like she is a perfect imitation.
She does a like, sure, right? You're yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Just love it.
Fantastic.
Great job,
Holly. We love you, guys. We will see you on Sunday with the Sunday Next Level. Bye.
It's gonna be good.